There's been a slight change. We just want to go over here. First of all, my name is Jill Rasmussen, and I am the executive director here at the theater. And Brandi asked if I would help her out tonight because the person she had planned to do it was unable to make it. So the 6:30 and 6:45 speakers have swapped. So just that's the little change in the program tonight. She wanted me to let you know that the bathrooms are located on each side on the downstairs floor here, and we also have some on the second floor. Tonight is Brandi's candidate fundraiser and civics forum. She's running for the Coos County Commissioner's seat here, and we will be having basically people will be talking about how primary elections work, what's on the May November ballot, and then we will have an intermission at 7. The concession stand will be available at 7 for you. We will also have how money moves between state and county, and hopefully this will intrigue you guys to ask several questions, because at 7:30 we'll have a Q&A. We have a microphone up here that you guys can just stand in line and ask Brandi the questions and stuff that you have. And then we'll have some closing remarks. So I guess we'll go ahead and start off here with Brandi coming up and introducing herself to you.
Thank you. And this is my microphone. Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here, not just physically in this room, but for being engaged in the future of our county. I was born and raised here in Coos County in the early 80s. I grew up out in Fairview, and I live there now. As a third-generation Coos County resident, I have deep roots here, and I understand the economic challenges that have unfolded. I understand the cultural struggles that have accompanied a weakened rural economy. This county shaped me. As a small child, I experienced the exact hardships many still battle: adults with drug addiction, domestic violence, and sex abuse. I used to be ashamed of my past. Now, I stand here as a voice for those still trying to find their way out. I am proof that the cycle can be broken. And if it can be broken for me, the cycle of poverty can be broken for Coos County. I'm running for Coos County Commissioner because I believe I am the right person in the right place for the right job at the right time. I hope by the end of tonight you'll understand exactly what I mean by that. I did not grow up around power or influence. At age 10, I was adopted into a logging family, and I learned about the grit that lies here in our community. Coos was built by people who broke their backs to create infrastructure, people who showed up to do the hard, dangerous work, people who fix what broke, even if they complained the entire time. People who understand that systems either function or they fail the people depending on them. And in a logging community, we live very aware that breakdowns in systems kill people. This acute awareness of consequence shaped how I approach problems with outcomes in mind. It shaped how I design solutions built for real life behavior. And it shaped how I lead by expecting accountability for individual actions. My professional background prepared me well for this kind of work. As a life and health coach, I guide people through transformation, helping people identify patterns they can't see, take ownership of what they can control, and build sustainable habits that hold up under real life pressure. I take the general term personal development and I turn it into applied problem solving. In coaching, if your plan is too complicated, people won't use it. If you can't measure progress, people get discouraged. If you don't name the real constraints, people lose trust. And if you don't build habits, instead of relying on motivation, progress stalls. Now take that and apply it to county government. We ask residents to trust budgets they can't interpret. We ask people to support policies without understanding how funding works. We ask for patience while services struggle, but we rarely provide a clear map of why. County government is full of complicated moving parts, revenue streams, mandates, state rules, federal pass-through dollars. And when those aren't explained well, the public is left with one of two feelings. Either I don't understand it, so I'll disengage, or something must be wrong, so I'll get angry. Neither of those create a healthy, resilient county. My approach is different. I want to treat the public information the way a coach treats a client's plan. Make it understandable, visible, trackable, and easily accessible. Let's talk honestly about what we're living with. Coos County is full of people who work hard, care deeply, and want their community to thrive. At the same time, we all feel the pressure points. People are concerned about public safety. People are feeling the strain of government hoops. People see a complicated financial structure and struggle to trust. People want better communication and transparency, and they want it without spin. This isn't about blaming anyone, it's about recognizing reality and being candid about our pain points. County government sits at the intersection of a lot of forces. We've got state rules, federal programs, local property taxes, mandated services, rural local constraints, rising costs. The answer can't be just fix it. If the problems were that simple, they would already be solved. So the real solution becomes listen through the noise to hear the reality, see the creative workarounds to roadblocks, collaborate and build power in numbers, and refuse to take no for an answer when pushing Salem to support our county. That's the kind of leadership I'm offering. I'm not running to perform, I'm running to build. I'm running to do. And I know that sounds simple, but I'm learning it's rare. A lot of politics today is performative. It rewards outrage, sound bites, and identity battles that make people feel emotionally satisfied for a moment, while the underlying system stays the same. I'm not interested in that. My style is systems-focused and outcome-based. I will ask questions like, what funding streams are restricted and which are flexible? Which really dig into creative options for moving money around within our budget to fit our needs? What costs are mandated and what choices are truly local to ensure the public knows what is a county decision and what is a state or federal mandate? When we're duplicating effort and exploring opportunities to streamline services, what can we track publicly so people can see in real time, better connecting residents to the results of their tax dollars? Because here's the truth. People can handle hard realities if they're treated like adults and given clear information. What people can't handle and will turn away from is confusion. Confusion breaks trust, and trust is the currency of a functional government. One of the biggest reasons county politics feels frustrating is that people assume county government works like a household budget. It doesn't. Unfortunately, counties can't just decide what they want to do and spend money on that. Much of the county funding and spending is restricted and mandated by the state. A lot of money flows in ways most people never see, from the state to the county, from federal programs through the state to local services, and through formulas and categories that can't be easily explained. One of our presenters tonight will detail how money moves between the state and counties, because if the public doesn't understand the flow, we can't have informed conversations about policies. When money is misunderstood, debates become emotional. When money is understood, Debates become solution focused. This is an area I believe I can make a real difference as commissioner, not by pretending the constraints don't exist or using them as an excuse for inactivity, but by showing people what they are, where the leverage is, and what strategies actually work to get what we need here in Coos. A stable county requires a stable financial base. In practical terms, that means we have to pay attention to how local services get funded and what strengthens that funding over time. People often hear the phrase economic development and think it means something ideological. I'm not talking about ideology. I'm talking about demonstrated resilience. Resilience is what happens when local businesses can grow without unnecessary friction, when residents can earn a stable living without leaving the county, when services aren't constantly in crisis mode, when we are less vulnerable to swings in outside funding. We can plan instead of just react. If we want resilience, we have to foster conditions that support local business success, workforce stability, smart coordination between agencies, long-term planning for infrastructure and services, and transparent budgeting so residents know what's real. This is the kind of work that is happening now, but it's slow, tedious, and it doesn't grab headlines. I'm here to push that work forward. Another reality that often gets ignored in county conversation is that long-term costs don't come from nowhere. They come from systems. And to a degree, they come from culture. When prevention fails, emergency systems absorb the cost. When planning fails, infrastructure becomes a crisis. When communication fails, trust collapses and every decision becomes contentious. This is why I talk so much about stewardship, system design, and measurable progress. Not because I think government can fix every problem, quite the opposite. But governments can do one of two things. They can either increase chaos by staying reactive and opaque, or reduce chaos by fostering transparency, stewarding our people, and implementing accountability measures. I'm committed to the second. Transparency isn't a slogan. Transparency is a practice. And the reason it matters is simple. If the public can't see what's happening, they can't evaluate it. When the public can't evaluate something, they can't trust it. So here's what transparency means to me in a commissioner level practice. Budget meetings that are publicly available, clear dashboards or reporting tools showing what money is allocated where, straight answers about what's restricted and what isn't, public-facing tracking tools that translate complex information into something usable, regular, reliable communication, and not just when there's a crisis. I've expressed interest in building tracking tools and education frameworks that help people better understand budgets and government decisions, not just hear about them, because when people understand the system, they participate more. And when participation is higher, buy-in is higher, and overall satisfaction is higher. That's actually not the easiest way, but it is the best way with the best outcome. I believe deeply in public participation, but not the kind that turns every meeting into a shouting match or a performance. We need collaboration that is structured, that is team-oriented. That means clear goals, clear boundaries, real data, transparent decision points, public input that actually influences outcomes. Collaboration isn't everyone gets what they want. Collaboration is aligning around shared priorities and making trade-offs openly. That's what functional, realistic systems do. As a coach, I can tell you, people can tolerate trade-offs when they feel respected and informed. What they won't tolerate is feeling manipulated, dismissed, or kept in the dark. County commissioner is not a figurehead. It's a working role that requires someone who can absorb complex information quickly, communicate it clearly, make decisions inside constraints, stay accountable to measurable outcomes, and maintain trust through transparency, and through consistent follow-through. I bring a skill set built around those exact needs. I build systems that are easy to use. I translate complexity into clarity. I focus on measurable progress. I emphasize accountability with just enough drama to create engagement. I know how to facilitate structured conversations that keep people on track. I don't believe government needs more control, more ego, or even more money. I believe it needs more competence and more communication. This race is not about who can create the biggest emotional moment. I'm someone who despises the purely performative. It's about who can lead the county through the realities we're facing with discipline and clarity. It's about whether we keep running our county like a foggy maze where only insiders understand the map, or whether we build a culture where the public can actually follow the logic, track the money, and evaluate results without the cloud of fear that seems to hover over the county. It's about whether we treat residents like spectators or stakeholders, because I want residents to be stakeholders. I want to say this plainly. I'm not interested in tearing anyone down. I'm interested in raising the standard. I want a Coos County government that communicates in plain language, plans for the long term, and tracks its own performance with the same seriousness that local families and businesses have to track their own finances. I want people to be able to say, I understand what the county is doing, and I understand why. I can see whether it's working, and I know how to engage. This is not unrealistic, it's simply a higher standard of leadership. If elected, my priorities will be rooted in the same framework I use in coaching. Clarify the system, making county budgeting and funding flows understandable to the public. Identify leverage points. Focus on where county leadership can actually influence outcomes, not where we can only posture. Build trackable goals. Use measurable objectives so residents can see progress. Communicate consistently, not only during controversy, but as a baseline practice. And design systems that draw participation with structured engagement, productive public input, and usable tools for residents. I'm not promising perfection. I am promising a new level of commitment to leadership, stewardship, transparency, collaboration, and accountability. Coos County doesn't need more excuses. It needs brave and tenacious leadership. It needs someone who can translate complexity into understanding and understanding into sound decisions. It needs transparency that's meaningful, not performative. It needs planning that's thoughtful, not reactive. And it needs a commissioner who respects residents enough to tell them the truth, even when it's not pretty. This is how we build trust. This is how we make change. And this is why I'm asking for your support, because I cannot do this without you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about Coos. I hope you'll join me in building a Coos County government that people understand, feel a part of, and are proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandi. So next up, we have how primary elections work with Caitlin Williamson. Caitlin, come on up.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Williamson, and I'm happy to be here today to support Brandi. I'm a magazine publisher in Salem, but a resident here in Coos Bay. And I'm talking with you about understanding the primary elections. So thank you so much for being here tonight. It's important to understand how Oregon's primary election system works because the process in May directly affects November outcomes. Who makes it through in May goes on to November. However, some elections are decided in May. The following slides will explain how the primary process unfolds, which decisions are made in May, and which go on to November. You'll leave this talk with a clear picture of how primary elections work and easy steps you can take to make your next vote count. The purpose of the primary election is for political parties to choose their nominee, the candidate who will represent that party in the general election for a partisan seat. In Oregon, primary elections are held in May of even numbered years. This year on May 19th, 2026. Not all elected positions are partisan, however, and those elections can end in May or November depending on the circumstance, but more on that later. Think of the primary elections as narrowing the field for certain positions. Here in Coos County, we're the largest represented, oops, I don't know where that went. By NAVs, or non-affiliated voters at 38%. Remember these numbers because party registration determines which ballot you receive, and we're diving into how that affects outcomes. Oregon has conducted elections entirely by mail since the 2000s, or since 2000. Thank you. It's important to check your registration status annually to make sure your information is accurate and that you're not dropped from voter rolls. You can check your registration status by scanning that code. Scan it and save that page to check your voter registration later. Let's see, is there a code here? There we go, this code. So it's good to check in on that, just make sure it's up to date. So scan it and save that page to check your voter registration later and share it with others. So you can take a picture of it here and share it with others if you like. Ballots are mailed about 2 to 3 weeks before Election Day. This May, ballots will be mailed April 29th. If you do not get yours by May 8th, 11 days before the election, contact the elections office at the Coos County Courthouse. They'll print you a new ballot and invalidate your previous one. Ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day. For mailed ballots, they must be postmarked no later than Election Day and received within 7 days after. This Election Day this year is May 19th. Voters can return ballots by mail or at an official drop site. We strongly recommend dropping your ballot at your City Hall ballot box or the Coos County Courthouse ballot box. This is the shortest route from your hand to hand of a county official. In Coos County, last special election back in May of 2025, out of over 49,000 registered voters, only 21% cast a ballot. Only 10,583 ballots. Less than a quarter of voters are choosing our leaders. Keep those numbers in mind, we're not done with them. Oregon uses a closed primary system. That means only registered members of a political party can vote in that party's primary. To break it down clearly, registered Democrats will only see Democratic candidates for partisan positions like governor, Senate, and representative. Registered Republicans will only see Republican candidates, but non-affiliated voters will not see any candidates for any partisan positions. Your party affiliation on file at the registration deadline of April 28th determines which ballot you receive. Remember, about 38% of voters here in Coos County are non-affiliated. That means 38% of you don't get to choose who ends up in the November race for things like governor, senator, and representative unless you change your party registration before April 28th to join the party of the candidate that you would like to vote for. Let's look at the effect on primaries in Coos County if we keep voting like we did last May. In our May election last year, only 21% of voters participated. That was about 10,583 voters. Now subtract 38% for the non-affiliated voters who can't vote in partisan primaries for things like governor and senator. If we use last May's data, that leaves us with only about 5,700 voters from Coos County out of over 49,000 choosing this May who makes it to the November ballot again for things like governor, senator, and representative. These are our lawmakers being chosen by about 11% of voters. If you're frustrated and feel like your voice is not being heard, this is a big reason why. You're probably locked out of the primary elections that impact your life. What can you do? Some choose to change their voter registration because they want to have a choice in who makes it to the November ballot. increasing voter participation and ensuring more voices are heard. If you're not registered with a major party, you'll still receive a ballot, but you will only see nonpartisan races, things like judicial offices, some local positions, and ballot measures. The position of sheriff, county clerk, and county commissioner are some of those that appear on all ballots. You're not excluded from voting in the primary election entirely, but NAV voters will not see major party nominees unless you register into that party before the April 28th deadline. Primaries allow partisan control of who makes it to the November ballot. Low voter turnout in primaries give more control to large political parties. In a primary, voters select candidates for partisan offices such as governor, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, state legislature, and some local offices, depending on the year. In many districts, one party dominates the general elections, meaning the November election is more controlled and more predictable. This is where the term leans red, leans blue comes from, predictions made on past voting. This means the primary elections are where up-and-coming leaders enter the political arena. The competition is happening within the political parties, not against each other at the primary stage. This is why closed primaries can create a candidate bottleneck where candidates who do not have strong partisan support from the established parties struggle to win primary elections. The votes themselves are not as numerous, making each vote carry more weight. Oregon uses a simple plurality system in primaries. The candidate who gets the most votes in May wins the nomination for the political party and wins that spot on the November ballot. This win does not require a majority of registered voters unless specifically stated for certain local positions. This doesn't apply this year. In cases like a commissioner race in May, if there's only 2 candidates, one candidate gets the majority vote and wins. However, if a third candidate enters, it becomes more difficult for one candidate to earn the majority of votes greater than 50%. So the top 2 proceed to the November ballot. For county clerk and sheriff, it's different. If there are only 1 or 2 candidates, they will not appear on the May ballot and go straight to the November ballot. If there are 3 or more, the top 2 on the May ballot move on to the November general election or the final election. Primary and special elections typically have much lower turnout than general elections. In some local races, outcomes can be decided by a few hundred votes. Here in Coos, we have board seats won in the last May election by only 184 votes out of 49,000 voters. Some seats in Oregon have been won by only 8 votes. That means a relatively small number of voters determine who advances to November. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or non-affiliated, understanding how this works gives you agency to get involved. Make sure your registration reflects who you'd like to vote for in partisan races. If you don't vote, someone else makes that leadership decision for you. Voter registration deadline is April 28th. Ballots are mailed April 29th. Ballots are due 8 p.m. on May 19th, and you can drop them at the courthouse or city hall ballot boxes. Remember, if you want a voice in a specific party's nomination, registration timing matters. We're all busy with life, and we elect leaders who we trust to do their jobs. Unfortunately, low voter turnout does not produce the best result. You may now understand better why many feel voiceless and politicians seem aloof to Oregonian struggles. They only have to impress about 10% of voters to win. If we're going to change the trajectory of our state, you need to vote for new leadership. Primaries shape the choices voters ultimately see in November, and this May, you have a choice if you choose to exercise it. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. And now we have what's on the May and November ballot by Mr. Steve Knight.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Nye. I'm the furniture guy. Thank you for joining us tonight. The May election is Oregon's primary election, which means voters are choosing nominees, not final winners for most offices. The presentation walks through what voters in Coos County can expect to see on their May ballot and touch on what will move on to the November ballot. Because Oregon uses vote by mail, voters will receive this ballot in early May, and by the end of this presentation, you'll be prepared to cast your ballot with confidence by May 19th. Oregon's primary system means that some races appear only for voters registered with a political party. For example, Democratic and Republican primaries for governor or Congress are separate ballots. However, nonpartisan races like judges, some county offices like commissioner, and local district positions appear for all Coos voters regardless of their affiliation. Ballots are very depending on where someone lives, which is why Coos voters will see slightly different local races. More on that is coming up. Ooh. I got it, Brandi. I got this. I've got it. Look at that. Your Facebook notifications don't come up on this, right? Okay. Steve, no humor. That's it here. Okay, all right. All voters in Coos County are in Congressional District 4 for U.S. House, and U.S. Senate covers the whole state. The May primary will determine party nominees for U.S. Senate and U.S. House, and the top candidate for each party goes on to compete in November. Voters are registered with the party will choose their party's nominee, while non-affiliated voters will not see these races at all unless they change their voter registration before April 28th. If you are a non-affiliated voter who would like to vote for a partisan primary candidate, you can choose to join the party of that candidate you'd like to vote for by April 28th, and then their race will show on your ballots. So some races are statewide and appear on all ballots, while other statewide races will only appear on the partisan ballots of each registered into a political party. The governor's race will appear on the May ballot for party voters. The current governor is not being challenged by another Democrat, so any voter interested in selecting a Republican to run in November would need to join the Republican Party by April 28th to have a vote. So an example of a nonpartisan statewide offices that everyone will see on their ballot is the labor commissioner. These lower profile races often receive less attention, but can have significant impact on workplace rules and enforcement. So it's important to learn about the candidates. All right, we have US senators and US legislators, and then we have state senators and state legislators. Am I on the wrong thing? Am I not matched up?
Yeah.
So it needs to be here? Okay, thank you. I'm open for anyone to lend me a hand at any time. All right, for Coos County, we have 2 House districts. So District 1, it encompasses roughly Coos Bay and South, while District 9 represents roughly Coos Bay and North. Our state legislature is made up of both state House and state Senate, but the elections do not occur at the same years. So the last state Senate District 1 election was in 2024. So the next will be in 2028. There are partisan positions, meaning for the May primary, you may register into a political party to vote for any of these candidates. Oops. Okay. Commissioners are nonpartisan county races, meaning all voters see them regardless of their party. County commissioners oversee budgets, departments, and county policy direction. Because these positions are nonpartisan, a candidate can win outright in May if they receive more than 50% of the vote. Otherwise, in the event of 3 or more candidates, the top 2 advance in November. Because only 2 candidates are running for each seat, this race will be decided this May. Brandi would greatly appreciate your votes, and all your family members and anyone else you know that can share her. So, all right. Ooh, fun. 3 candidates have filed for Coos County Clerk, making this an interested race in the May primary. Because this is a nonpartisan position, all voters will see this race, regardless of party affiliation. If one candidate receives more than 50% of the vote in May, they win outright. If no candidate reaches a majority, the two candidates advance to the November general election. The county clerk oversees elections, public records, and official county filings, making it a key administrative role in county government. The Coos County Sheriff race is a nonpartisan countywide position that will appear on the Coos County ballots in May 19 for the 2026 election. Because this is a nonpartisan race again, all voters will see it regardless of your party affiliation. There is only one candidate. They show up on the November ballot, but if there are two, the one who receives more than 50% of the vote wins in May. If there are three candidates, only one could win by earning more than 50% of the votes. Otherwise, the top two candidates advance to the November general election. The sheriff oversees patrol, jail operations, emergency coordination, and county-wide law enforcement services. We can expect this race to wrap up in May for Coos County. All right, judicial races are nonpartisan and appear on the ballot for all Oregon voters. Depending on your district, these races often have little public attention, but determine who presides over local court cases. Coos County shares District 15 with Curry County, and we have two races on the ballot this year from the candidates are uncontested though. These positions can be decided in the May primary if there are three or more candidates and one receives more than 50% of the votes. You see a trend here. If there are two or fewer, the race appears on the November ballot instead. This year, these positions will appear on your November ballot. A precinct committee person, or a PCP. Those races are internal political party positions that appear on the primary ballot for voters registered with that party. These roles are elected by precincts and serve as the grassroots organizational structure for political parties at the local level. PCPs help recruit candidates, participate in party decision-making, they fill vacancies, and they represent voters within their party's organization. These races only appear on partisan ballots. So voters who are not registered with a political party typically will not see them. Now, PCP positions are often overlooked, but they play a direct role in shaping party leadership and influencing which candidates and policies are supported here locally. So in the upcoming May 19th primary election, Oregonians will decide the fate of Measure 120, which is a referendum that asks voters whether to uphold or repeal several tax and fee increases passed by the state legislature. Stop the gas tax. Triggered the petition to overturn parts of House Bill 3991. The mission focuses on closing a major funding gap for road maintenance and public transit. A yes vote would confirm increases to the state gas tax, vehicle registration, title fees, as well as temporarily bump in the statewide payroll tax to support ODOT and local infrastructure. A no vote would repeal these hikes and keep rates at their current levels. Supporters argue that the funds are critical for bridge safety and highway repairs, while opponents contend the increases are the result of irresponsible state spending, and they demand larger budget changes. Measure 6-229 proposes several changes to how the City of North Bend's charter currently governs city operations. Under the existing charter, the mayor serves a 2-year term. The measure would extend that to 4 years, meaning mayoral elections would occur less frequently. The current charter also uses old city administrator language and does not clearly distinguish operational authority from policy authority. The amendment would modernize the city manager model that more explicitly separates council policy decisions from day-to-day administration. Council rules are currently more rigidly defined, while the measure would allow procedures to be adopted by ordinance or resolution, making them easier to modify. The existing charter provides limited or detailed guidance on filling council vacancies. The amendment clarifies how replacements would be made. Finally, removal of an elected counselor is currently handled primarily through a voter recall process, whereas the proposed change would allow the city public hearing and then a vote by the city council. These amendments change government structure and internal authority. Measure 6228, it proposes increasing the city of North Bend's existing public safety fee, which is currently charged on a monthly city utility bills for residences and businesses within city limits of North Bend. The city already collects this fee normally through utility accounts, and this revenue helps fund police services, but it does not fully cover current staffing and operational costs. Police funding is currently supplemented by the general fund dollars and other city revenues. This measure would raise the monthly utility fee and dedicate the additional revenue specifically to coverage and response capacity. If approved, utility customers in North End would see higher monthly charge on their city utility to provide more stable funding source for police operations. If it's not approved, the city would need to address the funding gap through service reductions, staffing changes, reallocating funds from other services, or proposing a different funding approach altogether. Did I go? Okay. The initiative titled People for the Elimination of Animal Cruelty Exemptions aims to eliminate legal exemptions that allow hunting, fishing, trapping, and standard livestock farming. If it's passed, it would classify many activities as criminal acts, such as hunting and fishing. This change would include banning pest control for your rodents, for fleas, bed bugs, just for a couple of examples. No eggs, no cheese, no milk, no yogurt. So as of February 2026, over 100,000 signatures have been submitted towards the needed 117,000. This is close to signature numbers. This petition could become a measure on November's ballots. For a more detailed examination of this bill, check out Brandi's interview with Rick Dancer by scanning the code on the slide to watch later, or visit Brandi's website, brandiforcoos.com, news to watch the video. Primary elections often have lower turnouts, which means individual votes have way more impact. Some races are decided entirely in May, especially non-partisan positions. Understanding the ballot helps voters engage early and shape outcomes before the general election. The more voters who participate, the better the representation we get, so encouraging participation in primaries is very important. It's like auto doing crap. Oh, it's my fingers on your mouse pad. Okay, I might be stuck.
Okay.
Oh, no, I got it. Thank you, Joe. But am I on the right slide? I think it's that one. Okay. All right. Oregon conducts elections by mail, and ballots must be postmarked by election day or dropped off at the ballot box by 8 p.m. on May 19th. Ballots are mailed to every registered voter in early May. If you don't have your May 8th at the latest, you can request a replacement ballot from the county clerk, and your old ballot will be invalidated. Voters can return ballots by mail, but dropping your ballot directly into the courthouse is the most secure trip from your hands to the election official counting it. All right. So encourage voters to check their registration, confirm their address, and review their specific ballot when it arrives. Ballot differences can be significant, especially for local races. And the more you know about what's on your ballot, the better decisions you can make about your political leaders. This ballot includes federal races, statewide offices, Oregon legislative seats, and countywide positions, including commissioner, sheriff, clerk. Voters may also see precinct committee person races depending on party registration, as we spoke about, along with the local measure items that apply to specific addresses. Ballots in Coos County may vary by location, so voters will see slightly different combinations, but each ballot reflects the office's decisions made to the specific to that area. Thank you so much for learning about what's coming up on your May ballots. But I'm not done, but thank you. Then thank you for dealing. So I wanted to speak briefly because I did get the permission from Brandi to do so. I have known Commissioner John Sweet and obviously lived here in the county while he has been a commissioner. He is a great guy, tons of wisdom, tons of knowledge. And when I first learned that Brandi was thinking about running, and then I got a chance to really learn about what her fundamentals were, learn a little bit about her, how she handles herself, how she communicates. I came along to the idea that she was the perfect candidate to run against John Sweet because she brings, intelligence, emotional intelligence, a background in policy in Coos County, and she has the brain, she has the time, because she literally recognized this is a full-time position where some people maybe don't quite recognize that. This is more than a job. But she has all of those things to do it. And what I've learned about her is her tenacity. And sometimes I think she's going to be a little too tenacious, and she's just so intelligent with how she pulls it back, realizes there's a bigger picture to things, and she works with people to solve things. And so I can see her in this role. And I personally feel that John's time has come, and it's a very good opportunity for Brandi to get elected and have the ability to really do some things for our county, looking at fresh perspectives. And my hope is that if Brandi is elected by the people, that John Sweet, because of the respect the two of them have for each other, John will work with her and be there. I mean, you don't want him just to disappear in the sunset, because there's wisdom, there's history there. And that can always be beneficial. And the way that she's treated this race with him is, I saw a couple opportunities where she could have gotten a little aggressive, for some of the things that maybe John did that were a little strange or questionable. And she chose not to. She's taken the high road the whole time. And so what I see as her being a future leader of our county and a mentor to other people that want to be in leadership roles that have the capacity, that's going to go a long ways. And so I respect her highly, and she certainly has my vote. So thank you.
Okay, we ready to get started again?
Yep.
All right, thank you all for joining us tonight. Next up, we have the lovely Kaylee Fields with How Money Moves Between State and County. Come on up, Kaylee.
Finally jump up here.
All right. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Kaylee Fields, and I'm a business finance major at SWAC. County budgets are complicated with multiple funding streams and restricted uses. Understanding how government money moves is important because informed decisions require knowledge, even if it's just who we vote for and why. The following slides will outline who pays, who controls, who decides how and where money is spent within the county government and its departments. By the end of this presentation, you will have an understanding of where county finances come from, where they go, and will maybe even spot some opportunities for new ideas. This is all about engagement, and the first step is to learn. Oregon operates as a centralized funding system, which means a significant portion of tax revenue is collected at the state level and then distributed back down to counties based on formulas and program requirements. A result, counties like Coos County often function as administrators of state-funded programs, especially in areas like public health, juvenile services, and parts of public safety, rather than fully independent decision makers. It's also important to understand that money doesn't always flow directly from taxpayers to the county. Much of it is routed through the state first, then distributed with specific rules attached, which limits how much it can be used locally. Income taxes, for example, are often returned to counties through state distribution. Property taxes are one of the few funding sources that are collected locally, but even these dollars are divided before the county ever sees them. The total amount collected across all districts is large, yet the county only receives a small portion of the total. Most of the revenue is automatically distributed to schools, cities, and special districts based on fixed formulas. This means that even though property taxes are local, the county still operates within a limited share. The takeaway is that local collection does not equal full local control. The structure of distribution determines how much the county can actually use. This is the most important point to make clear. People often assume the county receives the property tax revenue in the general fund, but it doesn't. Of the roughly 93 million collected in property taxes locally, the majority goes to schools and cities, which dominates how those dollars are used. The county is only a small slice of the larger system, receiving about 7.5 million. So it's important to understand both the scale of the total and how limited the county's share actually is. Think of the county funding as three buckets: local revenue, shared revenue, and grants. Local dollars like property taxes and service charges are the most flexible and can be directed where the county sees the greatest need. Shared revenue from the state comes with some guidelines, so it's semi-flexible. Grants are the most restricted, typically tied to specific programs like public safety or public health. The key takeaway is this: the more funding that comes from the state, the less control the county has over how that money is used. While the county does receive revenue funds, it does not control how much it gets. These are not local taxes. They are state collected revenues that are redistributed back to counties based on formulas set by the state level. These formulas determine the amount, and counties have no ability to adjust or negotiate those figures, which limits local control over this portion of the budget. State grants fund programs like juvenile services, veterinary support, and public safety. But the key point is that this money comes with instructions. These funds are restricted, meaning they must be used for specific purposes defined by the state. The county doesn't decide how to spend this money broadly. Instead, it administers the programs accordingly to state rules. In this role, the county functions less as a decision maker and more as an operator carrying out state-directed services. County services are not funded or controlled in the same way. Some areas like public health and court rely heavily on state and federal funding, which comes with more oversight and restrictions. Others like road and general government are primarily funded locally and allow for more direct county control. Many departments such as sheriff, jail operations fall somewhere in between. State rules also layer over top of federal requirements, and removing state policy does not remove federal obligations. The key takeaway is that each department operates under different funding rules, which directly affects how much flexibility the county has in making decisions. Public health operates on a roughly $7 million budget, with most of its funding coming from the state and federal grants and a smaller portion from local resources. Because the largest programs are funded externally, they come with restricted requirements and limited flexibility at the county level. This means that while public health represents a significant share of services, it is one of the areas where local decision-making is most constrained. One potential opportunity is to better align services with existing county infrastructure, such as integrating certain public health functions within the county jail facilities to improve coordination, access, and efficiency within those constraints. Whether this is possible is to be explored. The jail budget is primarily funded at the local level, which is why people tend to associate it with strong county control. Most of the functioning comes from the general fund, meaning local leaders have direct authority over how the operations are managed day to day. However, that control isn't absolute. State grants and service-based revenue still plays a role, which means outside requirements and constraints can influence how the system runs. The result is a department that feels locally controlled in practice, but is still partially shaped by external funding sources. More local control also means funding is our local responsibility. Courts and prosecution operate under a split funding control structure. While the court system itself is largely funded and directed by the state, the county is still responsible for key components like the district attorney's office, courthouse facilities, and on-the-ground security. This creates a shared system where responsibilities are divided but not always aligned. The important takeaway is that counties support the functioning of the courts, but they do not have full authority to control how the court system operates. Road funding is one of the clearest examples of local control, but also local constraint. Counties rely primarily on local taxes, user fees, and timber-related revenue to maintain and improve roads, within the state playing only a limited projected base role. That means decision-making largely sits at the county level, but the amount of money available is tightly tied to these specific revenue streams that are largely decided by the voter. In practice, county government controls how the roads are managed, but local voters decide how much funding they have to work with. General government is the core of county decision-making, covering commissioners, elections, and administrative functions. Unlike other departments, this is where the county has the most direct authority over how services are structured and delivered. However, that authority operates within a constrained funding model, primarily supported by property taxes with additional revenue from fees. This creates a structure tension. The area with the most control is also limited by one of the most fixed and restrained revenue bases. In county government, control over services and control over funding are often split between local and state levels. Counties are responsible for operating services, managing staff, setting service levels, and handling day-to-day decisions, but the structure of those operations the structure of those services operate within largely defined by the state and then by federal law. State government determines how revenue is distributed, sets programs, requirements also restricted by federal law, and attaches conditions to funding through grants and regulations. As a result, even when a county is responsible for delivering a service, its flexibility is shaped by where the funding comes from. In general, the greater the reliance on state funding, the more limitations exist on local decision-making. County funding operates on a three-tier structure that directly shapes how much control local government actually has. Locally generated money, like property taxes and fees, offer the most flexibility but are limited in scale. Shared revenue, where funding is distributed through state formulas, provides more resources but comes with some constraints. The largest funding streams come from grants, which can significantly expand programs but carry the most restrictions through rules and conditions set outside of county. As funding increases, control typically decreases, creating a trade-off between financial capacity and local decision-making authority. Coos County collects approximately $93.3 million in total property taxes, but only about 7.46 million of that amount goes directly to county government operations, including our jail and district attorney. The county pays the state roughly $155 million in income tax, and all of that is controlled by the state. The majority of funding that supports the large programs, such as public health, safety, and justice, comes from state-controlled sources, often with specific rules and limitations attached. This creates a structure where the county does have some local control, particularly over its own limited revenue, but operations largely within externally defined financial constraints. Key takeaway, the county is responsible for delivering services, but does not control most of the money behind them. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about how money moves between state and county. If you have any questions, there will be a Q&A with Brandi up next.
Thank you, Kaylee. Okay, so next up is the Q&A with Brandi Martindale. We have a microphone up here. Oh, she has a closing remark first. Okay, hang on one second.
I think, is that the way I had it? Check the program.
Well, I was, and it was after
I do after it? Well, we better do Q&A now then.
Okay, change plans. All right. If you have any questions, we have a microphone up here. You can come up, ask your question. If you're not comfortable coming up and standing up in front of everybody, you kind of uncomfortable. Raise your hand, I'll come to you, and you can let me know your question. I'll ask it for you. Do we have any questions? We got a hand up. Okay, Brandi, first question.
My name is Mark King. My question is, what I'm picking up on in a lot of these county commissioner meetings is everybody's broke. The county is low on money. ODOT's low on money. Everybody's out of money to do certain job tasks. One particularly that I'm interested in a lot is the county road on North Bank. There's a tide gate that's failing, extremely unsafe. It's a major safety issue. And I'm just wondering, who does the grant writing for the county, and how do the county commissioners, do they have any oversight on that and can control that? Instead of having the watershed entities control the money of spending, I'm kind of jumping around there, but anyway, how can money be spent in the million, obviously replacing a tide gate, everybody said it's a lot of money. Where can that money be sought after, and how can the county commissioners oversee?
So I believe the tide gates fall under a partial local, partial state funding structure. So what it may take is, like we've spoke about before, tenacious pushing, refusing to give up until we can find the money for it. The commissioners can absolutely have a role in that by being a voice for the people, taking these issues to Salem, to our legislators, and through the grant writing process, coming up with that money. I think it's going to depend on the person you elect to do the job and whether or not that person is actually going to have the tenacity to not stop pushing until the job gets done.
One more thing. Obviously, the tide gate is just for public, people driving over it. It also is the main tributary on the Cook Hill River for the Chinook salmon, which just a few years ago were in danger. But due to the hard work of the STEP program, pushing Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, which has dropped the ball on numerous occasions, as you've heard of in the news, where they've killed small, they've made the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So anyway, this tide gate would be replaced correctly, would help three ways: help the endangered salmon, public safety, and third is, I guess would be,
Keep the salt out of your field.
and help the local farmers.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, I
thing.
think there's an opportunity to get it. There's of course an opportunity to get it done. It's just going to be a matter of electing a commissioner that is committed to seeing these resolutions all the way to the finish. And that resolution may include working with the tribes and what they're doing to restore salmon.
I've
It's,
had the tribe on my ranch, and we did smolt release there, and I told, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife that if things weren't, this has been going on for 18, 20 years, that they haven't helped the farmers replace this tide gate. And they keep saying, oh yeah, when we get some money, but then it just goes away.
I would be curious, something I would want to dive into as commissioner, if when we're looking at bringing in a USDA meat packing plant, if we can get some investor money too to help fix some of those issues.
Oh yeah, you gotta.
'Cause we need the
Cookville
fields.
Valley that used to have a barrier of
Yeah.
2 miles up and
Yeah.
down. Now they're all gone. And I used to be part of that, a family that had dairies and beef cows. And yeah, it's all gone. And it's kind of sad to see a bunch of farms that are just basically turning into marshlands, with some people, that's what they want. And
Because they're retired, and they don't need to make money anymore. No offense to anyone that's retired, but a lot of us still, we need to make our money. So we need to empower our ranches, especially because our ranches are our middle class income. Ranching is something that any family can commit to do. They can raise some animals on their property and sell them and make a profit. Empowering individuals to make money without the government coming in and subsidizing it is one of my big goals. So making sure that those pastures are usable for ranchers is going to be hugely important.
my final question is do the county commissioners, are they supposed to be involved with the watershed entities in overseeing and making decisions?
Can you repeat that?
The commissioners that hopefully you will be elected, when I'm hearing that, I'm going to vote for you.
Yes.
What control do you guys have over the Cookville watershed, the Coos County Water Conservation Districts, all these watershed people? There's tons of money that comes down from NOAA and then it gets allocated. And there's projects of 15 million, 8 million that was spent on the Cookville River, and it was a stupid, a waste, a failure. You can talk to West Coast contractors. The proof is there.
I believe that is funded by the state,
The state to who?
to the watershed districts.
Okay,
And again, there's an opportunity to work there with those entities and work out grants, work out funds. It's probably going to be a multi-pronged solution where we get a little bit of help from a lot of people.
the debt on those smolt that died and Beaver Slough, those were supposed to be released on my property. And I told them to get back to me to make a commitment to make the stream 7 Mile healthy again, and they didn't get back to me.
That's because you need a commissioner that will crawl up their behind.
Thank you.
So this gentleman's question is kind of got something sparked with me, Brandi. So when John Sweet was pushing the public safety measure, the funding measure a couple of years ago, and put it on the ballot, and us the taxpayers kick in some more money, I was very supportive of it because I didn't see another solution from based off all the conversations I had from them. I'm like, you guys can't find the money, I guess you can't find the money. So we need the jail, at least 150 bed capacity. And I was kind of trying to help him with that. And I said, geez, you're printing your artwork and these flyers and stuff, John. Don't you have someone that can help you with this? Or do an assistant, or is, he didn't have the capability to do it. He says, Steve, the commission, we don't have help. We are the graphic designers. We do all of this. And then as I learned more and more about what they did as commissioners, what their limitations were, I started asking about grant writing. I'm like, well, do you guys have someone with the county that does grant writing? Well, this person kind of can do it, and I believe the addition of Drew Farmer, he has the ability, based off his history, to do grant writing. So I think you now have that quiver, available to you. But I look at this as the opportunity for the county. What can a community commissioner do and bring to the table? And what I saw with limitations with John, he doesn't have the ability to do those things. He has connections. So what would you bring that's unique that you won't have an assistant to do?
What will I bring that is unique that I won't have an assistant do?
You won't have an assistant to do it. So you got to do it. And John has repeatedly said that to me, Steve. I don't have someone who just laying around to do these functions for me. So I look at this now, the skills that the commissioners have themselves is huge because they're the only ones that are going to do it.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with that. Because I don't have an assistant, what do I bring new to the table that is value add to the role of commissioner, right? So that's a fantastic question. I get to talk about how great I am. I'm an excellent coach. And what I do with my clients absolutely translates into what I can do for Coos County. So when I'm meeting with people, I'm having developmental conversations, and this may be meeting with other grant writers, meeting with investors, meeting with our tribes, meeting with the state, whatever it might be. I have the ability to grow a relationship with them, build those connections. I definitely don't need an assistant to do things like graphic design. Everything that you see associated with my campaign, I made myself. I didn't actually print the signs. I had to have those sent off, but the images that you see, and that's why they're hard to read, because I made them pretty, not effective. So lesson learned there. But so I've learned a lot from this campaign, but I do bring the ability to, I built my own website, created my own graphic designs and marketing and logos. And so in that capacity, what else? Is that kind of what were you thinking, is marketing and stuff like that? Or were you thinking of something larger?
I don't know, on the grant writing side, just other things that will really add value to the county. I'm not looking for you to be a professional, painter or plumber.
So I do not have grant writing history, because I just haven't been in a position where that was a skill that I needed to learn. I believe in the commissioner's role. If I needed to learn how to write a grant, I think I could pick it up pretty quickly. I'm pretty confident that that's something I wouldn't have a problem doing, and I would be happy to do it. If that's a way that we can bring money into the county, absolutely, I'm on it.
Yeah, or in that case, we have some very effective large nonprofits that are just they kill it in grants, right?
Yeah.
I can think of 5 that have just gifted. And if you said you can help the county, can you donate a little bit of your time to help me out? So I would utilize that.
Reaching out to the
Reach out to
community.
the people who are already here that can do it.
I think volunteerism and collaboration among our citizens is going to be really important, because we don't want to raise our property taxes. What that translates to in real life is that we have to do a lot of the work ourselves, because we're not paying someone else to do it with our property taxes. So that's kind of the trade-off, right? If you want low property taxes, you have to assume more responsibility personally for getting things done. If you don't want that responsibility of getting things done, you raise your property taxes and pay someone else to do it. Coos County has spoken quite a few times and says that they would not like their property taxes raised. So the solution really is we as a community have to do the actual work, and working with our grant writers to kind of spread that knowledge out among as many organizations as we can is definitely a great way to get that done. That's kind of that cross services overlap that I've been talking about. It's the multiplier effect where the sum of two things becomes greater than their individual parts separate. That's where we can really start to get more for our money, so to speak, and stretch that budget a little bit further.
Might I suggest, you did mention about helping ranchers out, bring in like a packing facility or local. One other thing that would be beneficial for the county is if you can bring the number of salmon up like they used to be in the Cookhill and Coos River and all these local rivers. Think of the revenue, people coming here to fish and stay at the motels.
Absolutely, I want to eat them. Oh, more fish, more for me. Absolutely, and what we're doing there is working on putting fish boxes anywhere where people want them. We've got so many friends out in Fairview that are interested, and they live on the North Fork there, and they're like, sure, I'll and get my fish box up and going. And so working with individuals in the community who are interested in doing exactly that and empowering them with the equipment and the guidance that they need in the tribe has, I believe, been very wonderful in helping people make that happen. So yeah, that's in our future for sure.
STEP program along with the tribal support to help the salmon restoration is where you want to be involved. You don't want to bow down or try to get help from ODFM. They want everything to stay the way it was. They don't want to do anything more. They failed on numerous occasions, so use the STEP.
We're moving on from that. Absolutely. We're not going to be messing with them anymore. I think we've seen what they're capable of, and we're going to go ahead and do something different.
We're ready for another one?
Thank you.
All right, so I'm very vocal about the fact that I hate politics. I think they suck, and I think
we're the
Word
worst.
Sweet is he's a politician. He talks sweet, or no pun intended, and he's definitely voted on some ideological thing. That being said, I'm a proud Christian. I wish we were able to have a lot more Christian events in our county, but I do not think that it's anybody's business to pay for it except for the church. I don't think it's tax dollar stuff. How can we be assured that you won't take the same steps as John Sweet and vote for ideological things and only vote for things that the county needs?
Well, that's a tricky question to answer. How can you know that I won't vote ideologically? You would have to look at my past history. I mean, I can sit here and tell you I wouldn't, because that's not how my brain even works. But you would just have to take my word for it, right? I think what you can do is look at my past professional performance and look at where I have worked in hard data, worked with facts, worked with logic and reason, and look in my professional history for instances of ideological sway. So when you look at my professional history, you're going to see where I worked, you're going to see what I did, and within that, you're going to see, does this make sense in the real world, or was this made up by someone? And I'll stop there. But you know what I mean? Because the only thing I have to give you to really answer the question is my word, and that I don't vote ideologically. And when it comes to governance, I think this is a hard thing to trust, but my personal perspective in governance is that my personal opinions are my personal opinions. They are not necessarily the best policy for the public. So I may feel a certain way about something, but I know that my feelings don't represent the majority of the voters or don't represent the best outcome for Coos County. I put my personal beliefs second. Now, that's just me telling you that. You can go through my professional history and decide for yourself if you think I'm honest about that. But I can tell you that my brain just doesn't work on ideology. I'm very logic, facts, rational data. So that's kind of the antithesis of how my brain works. Sure.
Next question.
What would you do with regards, and what do you think the commission should do with regards to ICE?
In regards to ICE. So I don't have any interest in pushing back against state law. I will say here in Coos County, I don't think we're overwhelmed with Venezuelan gang members. Where we need an ICE sweep, it seems ridiculous to me. I would like to see our local law enforcement coordinate with ICE in a very low key and scalpel level targeted attack on cartels. So where the public doesn't even really know they're here, they came in, they got the bad guys, and they got out. That's something I would be interested in working on them with. But as far as having them sweeping schools, sweeping churches, I just do not think that would be a good thing for Coos County. Now, I will say the fact that Oregon State feels entitled to buck federal law, but will not allow counties to buck state law. So if we as a county choose to not follow the state mandates of sanctuary cities, sanctuary state mandates, they will defund us. And when they defund us, we lose all of the services that we are required by the Oregon State Constitution to provide. When that happens, the state can financially sequester us. That means the state now runs everything. And if you look at how the state runs things, we maybe don't want that here. And so it is a delicate balance between the hypocrisy of our state deciding they don't have to follow law, but the counties do, and the harm it would do to our county if we didn't follow the state law, even if it was breaking federal law. What I would do as a commissioner is vote to keep my county financially intact, even if I didn't agree with what the state was telling me to do. It is a catch-22. It is a complete lose-lose. But regardless of how I feel, I can't put the county in financial danger by making decisions based on what I think. And I think, does that answer your question? I know it's tough because we're really, I was talking earlier to Commissioner Drew Farmer about the 2 oaths of Richard Helms. And I don't know if any of you in the audience probably not read it, but it is about an agent who had to sign an oath to Congress and an oath to the CIA. Well, which oath did he uphold when Congress called him to testify? He had an oath to the CIA to basically lie for the president. Well, when Congress brought him up, he had to either break his oath to the CIA or lie to Congress. I can't remember how. I won't say how it came out because I can't remember. I'd have to go back. We're going back about 15 years. But it reminded me of that when you put a person in an impossible situation where there are no right choices. I think the choice really is to look at what's right for Coos County, what makes sense for Coos County and what doesn't, and try to find a middle ground. And I don't think that middle ground is going to be screaming at each other from a sidewalk. We need to be really sitting down and having serious conversations about what we want our county to look like and how we're going to get there. Thank you. Next question.
Hi there, my name is Jerry, and I'm curious, I think I was actually for my question. You hear crime a lot in the ad house with Baton County, we all agree with that.
And so do you have any thoughts on how we could reduce crime in our county and maybe a little on our jail? Any thoughts on getting more beds in the jail that can be used?
You just asked my favorite question. The answer is yes, absolutely. So talking about combining those services, overlapping services, we have an opportunity because we have space in our jail, but no money. We have money in our public health services through Coos Health and Wellness, Bay Area First Step, Adapt. They have the money, but they have no space. So we do, I believe right now, they have begun bringing mental health services into the jail. That has started. So what we have an opportunity to do is create a genuine rehab program. In my grand vision, I see a work program coming back. We know that work programs in the jails reduce recidivism. It's been proven over and over because it teaches the skills a person needs when they get out of jail to self-sustain. They need to learn the habit of getting up and going to work every day if they're going to do it when they get out. And so teaching those habits while they're incarcerated is going to be super important. One way we can do that is by partnering with our public health facilities, bringing these facilities in so that they can work on behavioral and drug rehab with our imprisoned populations. Doing that would dramatically reduce recidivism because we have relearning, literally learning the behaviors of getting up and going to work in the morning so that this person can support themselves and they don't end up back in that cycle that got them in jail in the first place.
And how about opening up more beds?
That would open up more beds.
Because you would have many people?
We would have more resources. So we would need those beds. So you could have like a tier of, like, these people need to be locked up. And then you can have a tier of these people need a break from the environment they've been in to rehabilitate. And then you could have those tier of people who are working their way out. They've been holding down a job. They've been getting therapy and behavioral rehabilitation. And so there is an opportunity to really actually open up the whole jail, not necessarily just for incarceration, but for an entire rehabilitation kind of facility. So it would really be changing the function of the jail itself, or evolving the function. It's a possibility. So absolutely, yeah. Yeah, sure. This gentleman.
I guess I can give it to this one.
Oh, you got one right here just for you. We put that there just for you.
I guess, my main question to you, Brandi, is when you get elected county commissioner, what will be your prime directive, or for that matter, any public servant that gets elected? What should be their prime directive to the citizens of this county?
My prime directive is going to be beelining for more people like me and stewarding them into positions of leadership in our county. Because I can't do it all by myself, I need help. So I need to be bringing up leaders who can help me do the work, whether it be citizens who are going to replace me when my 4 years is done. And so that stewardship is going to be huge. Something that, and stewardship also ties into supporting economy. We need workers with skills. So really supporting our local workforce development and making sure that we're getting people in contact with the skill teachers that they need. My other big focus is crime. We need to live in a safe county. We deserve to live in a safe county. Some of the things that have happened over the last few years have been absolutely atrocious. I felt safer the 8 years I lived in New York City than I do in the Coos Bay North Bend area. And that is because New York City had police and they took crime seriously. One of the issues we have with crime, and again, a lot of people are not going to like this answer, but we have a little bit of a culture problem. We have a little bit of an issue with people who think that they just need more help. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes what they really need is just a little bit more consequence. Right now, we are very, very, very lenient. Part of that is because of jail space. Part of that is because of the culture here in Coos County. We do have a permissive culture. And so one of the things that we can do to address that is have these conversations. Is feeding people who rob your neighbors the right thing to be doing? That's a tough conversation to have. When people who are giving the food to people living on the street, they think they're doing God's work. Meanwhile, they're giving a meal to someone who is literally going to rob their neighbor's back porch that night. So as a community, we have to have these conversations about what accountability looks like, what acceptable behavior looks like.
Along those same lines, a lot of this permissiveness comes from Salem.
Yeah.
You talk to any police officer, and if they're honest with you, they are feeling hamstrung.
I hear that hamstrung word a lot.
Yeah, when they know if they make an arrest, they take it to the county jail. Before they get the paperwork, that individual's back out on the street. And until we do something about that, and basically what you've got is the politicians from Portland and Eugene area ruling the state. Now we got people out, oh, no more kings. Well, we got a queen, ladies and gentlemen.
We got a question. You want to come up here?
Yeah, about what he said about the police. I talked to a police officer and he said that he didn't quite know what he could arrest anybody.
Who's got
That's
the?
not my question, but I just thought.
Oh, are you way back there? Okay.
I was wondering about property taxes. They seem to go up about 3% every year. And I moved from Arkansas, and they had a thing for disabled people. And their taxes actually got lowered to a certain degree and could never be raised again. They're kind of keep raising property taxes. They're pricing elderly people out of their homes.
Yeah, it's definitely a big problem. So there are things within the assessor's office that does try to mitigate that. There are formulas that they go by to make sure that that doesn't happen. Seems like it still does happen. My personal opinion is that property tax is a violation of the Fifth Amendment takings clause. If I ever get the opportunity to sue over that, I'm totally going to try to take it to the Supreme Court because I think property taxes are unconstitutional. But that's my personal belief. As commissioner, there's not a lot I can do about that. The 3% is baked in. And there is property taxes that are controlled by the state. And then there's the county property tax. I believe that property county tax, the one that's levied by the county itself, I believe that has not increased. Maybe beyond the 3%, it hasn't increased. What do we do about it? There are options. We have, and this is kind of a spicy option, you can feel about it how you will. It has been proposed that we do a tax swap. So the county can choose not to levy its property tax in lieu of a county sales tax. The way that it has been talked about structuring is creating caveats for things like medications, food, large items like furniture and cars, so we don't put our large business owners out of business. Basically trying to tailor it so that we target our visitors more. And working the numbers, it actually looked like it would work. Property tax payers in the county would need to spend, I believe, $22,000 here in the county before they paid as much money as they would pay on their property tax bill. So looks like it could be a pretty sweet deal for Coos County if we wanted to make that transition. However, there would be accounting involved. People would have to get on board. There would be money collection. There's a lot of moving parts to make it happen, but that is an option. I'm looking for every possible loophole to get people out of property taxes, especially ones that are based on the value of your home. I strongly believe that taxing on speculative value is wrong. Because what happens is you have a government that can come in at any time and say, well, we think your house is worth $800,000. That's terrifying. And so in my personal opinion, property taxes should not be able to be charged above what the home last sold for. There are some issues around providing services to homes, like making sure your fire department, your police department, things like that are paid for. So property taxes do serve a purpose like that. There are instances where other things have gotten tacked onto property tax though, and that actually, there was a permitting process found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2004. Using the logic of their ruling, I think it is only going to take one really determined person to take their property tax bill all the way to the Supreme Court, and it may unravel the entire blanket of property tax. So we might, as a county, want to start looking at alternative funding because that might come to an end. I will say though that what the county collects is pretty modest in comparison to our neighboring counties. But yes, I mean, to answer your question, I hate property tax and I would love to abolish it. Whether or not I will be able to, I doubt it. But I'll be there pushing it any chance I get.
Next question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, with some of the events, called town hall meetings that occurred in Coos County.
Yes.
It was awesome. It was applauded by all the local people. There was a situation where the county was bolstering, telling people we own 60 feet on 30 feet on each side of the center line or on county roads. And they were telling people how they needed to do their fences. They couldn't repair it unless they got a permit. Anyway, the town hall meeting came out and there were people with literally pitchforks that showed up, and it was awesome. And I suggest that you, with the other commissioners, put more town hall meetings on, because you're gonna get a lot of help and commitment from the local, people, the majority of the people on how they feel. And obviously you want to represent the majority of the people, so when they have those meetings and the people voice their opinion, that's what you can go by.
Yeah.
And get help from the local people.
Yeah.
So I would suggest you push for more town hall meetings, and the people will come up with ideas.
That's exactly what we need to do, because I do think the solutions to our county's problems lie here with our residents.
I mean, it's easy to just sit back and complain, which I personally have done myself, but when you bring the people together and you make a commitment, it happens. Things will move, things will start happening.
Because you get buy-in.
Yes.
When you have that conversation and people kind of hash out their disagreements and we come to a workable solution, now you have buy-in where people are really committed to the project. Absolutely.
Okay, so, I think everybody usually agrees that, we want to clean up our county. We want everything, we want the funds to go everywhere that it can go to clean up the county so that there's less complaining, on what's happening in our county, so everything looks better. And you were talking about the overlapping, two things, we put them together, it becomes much larger. And as far as our jails, capacity, we don't have any community service that we're getting these, these criminals that are coming in and out of jail, they're just being let go. They're not having that option or consequence to do community service, to actually clean up some of the trash that's everywhere in our county. Do you think that that would be something that would be beneficial to also make sure that we do have room for those bad criminals in our county that are just getting let go, so that the lesser crimes would have some consequences rather than being let go by community service, clean up our county, so they're doing something for us, and then have those, bigger crimes, they have more time in jail rather than being booked and released.
The community service is actually a really great idea because you can take a person who is a lower level criminal who maybe is not a threat to the general public. Maybe they got multiple DUIs and lost their license, and they're really, so they're not driving anymore. Rather than have that person sit in jail, because having people sit in jail is really expensive, having a community service program is a very smart idea. It can work both ways, teaching a person what responsibility feels like, what obligation feels like, and it also saves the county some money that way. So yeah, absolutely. Bringing back community service programs is a wonderful idea. And if we pair it with, picking up trash is maybe not a long-term skill set, but that's just one example of many things that we could have nonviolent inmates doing. And that would be part of a work program that would help build those self-sustaining behaviors as well. Yeah, definitely. That's absolutely something that we could look at doing. Yeah.
That's exactly the town hall meetings. Then they make subcommittees, people talk about it, come up with all these ideas, and then.
There you go. Yep.
Well, as far as these community service, we used to have that here in City Ward.
We did, I remember.
And the progressives got started in Salem. Now they're calling it slavery. You got 2 senators in DC that can't hardly go a week without, we can't be doing that. Like last summer, the Oregon State Penitentiary has a program.
Yes, so
Firefighter.
what you have to do with people like that, so what they're doing is they're using covert abuse tactics. And you really just have to stop them with data. Just stop them straight in their tracks and refuse to you have to go right to the data and say, this actually does work. And you have to pin them down on that.
That's fine and dandy, but you've got people in this state that hear that coming from their public servants, and they've taken this gospel, and they gobble it up, and then they see a work party. Next thing you know, you got people marching in the streets.
Too bad. I mean, you can't let that stop you from doing the right thing. People, there's going to be complainers. You got to do the right thing anyway. Anyway, we're a little bit over time, and I have some closing remarks. If you guys will give me just a few more minutes. Thank you all. By the way, great questions, you guys. Thank you. These are really good questions. This is where all the important stuff is. Okie dokie. So I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. You took the time to learn, ask questions, and engage in the future of Coos County. Strong communities are built by informed voters, thoughtful conversations, and people who are willing to step forward and participate. Your presence here matters, and your support is building a campaign focused on clarity, transparency, and practical solutions for our county. If you believe in me and want to help me win, there are several ways to help. Make a contribution. Donations are the powerhouse. We need gas, we need signs, we need advertising, and we need community events like this. Frankly, a candidate who pays for their own campaign shouldn't be running because they don't have the support. You can prove I should be up here by visiting the donation table. Volunteers. I need help with door knocking in late April, phone calls, and sign placement. Sign placement is a big one that you guys can help out with. So grab a handful of signs and place them wherever you see others. I don't necessarily know where the signs are supposed to go, and I'm still trying to figure that out, but I assume John Sweet has done this several times already, so he knows where to put his signs. So we're gonna learn from him, and rather than reinvent the wheel, just stick my sign wherever you see his sign. Make it easy. There is also a sign-up sheet for volunteering out. Oh, there was supposed to be a sign-up sheet that I maybe didn't print out. We'll get a sheet up there of some kind, and if you guys can write your name and number, I'll reach out. And so whatever you know, write down what your volunteer, what thing you're good at. And the other thing you can do is spread the word. Tell your friends, make sure they understand their vote matters. You know, back in 2016, 2017, there was this really loud push to convince people that their vote doesn't matter. What ended up happening is voters became disengaged and the extremists gained more power. We need our moderates to vote and know their vote matters. That's one of the reasons I encourage you all to drop your ballot directly at the Coos County Courthouse, because then your ballot can't get lost. You know, and it doesn't, that way we don't overwhelm the USPS, and it's a direct line from your hand right to the county clerk. And make sure to understand that your vote matters, because if you don't all vote, I don't win. Tell your friends, tell your family and your coworkers to visit my website, Brandi for Coos online, and to check their voter registration online to make sure they get a ballot. Host a small gathering. This is a fun one. If you can set up a meet and greet, I can be there. It could be your home, it could be a church, or it could be a bar. I actually really like going to other people's churches. It's super fun. If you'd like to host a get together, add your name and a number to the sheet that will be out there with a note for meet and greet. The other thing you can do is stay connected. You can follow me on Facebook at Friends of Brandi Martindale, or on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. You can share my campaign information. That really helps others online stay informed. You can display support. So put up a sign in your own yard, grab a stack of postcards and flyers to deliver or distribute where you're allowed, and post photos of yourself with my sign online. You know, like take a sign selfie and put it out there so people can see you. People seeing that support and seeing that this is a group effort, that really does matter. All of this works because people can't choose me if they don't know me. And everyone knows John Sweet. He's been commissioner for several terms now. And so my real struggle is getting people to know me, and that's where I need your help. You are all my first degree connections that are going to introduce me to more by spreading the word about my candidacy. That's how we win. So coming from where I have, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be standing on this stage tonight. I never had a life plan, and I never saw myself entering politics, but I believe I am right where I'm meant to be right now. I believe Coos can change for the better, and I'm running for Coos County Commissioner with the goal of coaching this county into a new chapter of prosperity. I ask that you join me. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your commitment to the future of our community. Good night, everyone.